And here we have a situation. These two cops are talking to each other. Looks like they're in a little private conversation. They're not speaking very loudly. That looks like a private conversation.
Did the UPS folks contract you to come out and do something with them, sir?
That's irrelevant.
Okay, here's one thing that I never thought of as a Leo, and I don't find a lot of people are forgetting this one, but this is something that we ought to look at very closely.
So, getting back to the example, me and my buddy sitting on a bench, and you somehow record that, it's eavesdropping. Okay, if you did it without our permission. Now, if you walked up and were talking to us, and the three of us are having a conversation, you can record that because you're part of it. But the guy sitting in the bushes with the long distance microphone is not part of our conversation, so he can't do that. Likewise, if a police officer pulls you over by the side of the road, and after you've yelled, "I do not consent" at him a few times through the window, which you've only cracked this far, if you're recording the conversation you have with him through the window, you can do that because you are part of that conversation. Where you run afoul of the law is if you see a police officer on the side of the road and he's talking to somebody, and they're, let's assume it's police business, but it doesn't have to be. But they're talking, right? And you sneak up on them with a recorder and you record the conversation. You're not part of this conversation. So, police officer and detainee are having a conversation back and forth, and you record it, and then you walk away. Okay? And then you publish it on YouTube and say, "I'm a First Amendment auditor. I was auditing the police." If you weren't a party to that conversation, you just committed a crime, and you may also be sued. So we'll talk about that in a second. But the point is that we're talking about the nature of the conversation, not where you're standing. This idea that, you have no expectation of privacy in public. Number one, I don't know who said that, but number two, it doesn't apply to eavesdropping because the eavesdropping statute does not say any such thing. Now, here's the part that confuses a lot of people, and it also is where we talk about private places. You broadcast it, or you transmitted it, or you gave it away, let people hear it. I'm mortified by that, so I'm going to go in front of a jury and say how much that hurt me, and a jury can write me a check out of your checkbook. But number two, punitive damages. And punitive damages, by definition, are not there to compensate you. They're there to punish you for what you did when you eavesdropped. So a jury might say, well, gee, Mr. Leto, you do appear to be relatively unscathed by the incident. We're going to give you $1,000 for your damages, but we're going to hit the guy for $50,000 in punitive damages to teach him a lesson. And punitive damages are there to teach somebody a lesson. So next time you're out in public with a recording device, and the thought occurs to you to walk up and record somebody else's conversation, you have to tell yourself, do I really want to risk violating the eavesdropping statute because I could go to jail or I could get sued if I record a conversation I'm not a part of? You could go up and try to insert yourself into the conversation, see how that goes. The people might stop talking. They might move away, assuming you're a weirdo. Or if it's a police officer and someone they're questioning, the police officer might say, "Step back, because I don't need you as part of this conversation." And if you insist on inserting yourself into that conversation, you might run afoul of something else, such as interfering with a police officer attempting to do his duty. It's another thing altogether. But the idea that you as a First Amendment auditor, or simply somebody who's nosy, can stand in a public place and record people doing things privately in a public place does not give you a pass simply because there's no expectation of privacy in a public place, because there is. There can be and there is, and we know that because the eavesdropping statutes don't make that distinction. That's a distinction that people have just simply made up because it sounds good, but it's not the law. So that's what the law is on eavesdropping. I hope you understood. If not, questions or comments, go below.
Okay, this is Steve Leto of Leto's Law. He has his own channel, and that's where I'm getting it from. I wanted to post this because I couldn't have said it better myself, and this is something I never considered as a Leo, and most Leos don't consider this. So you run into these frauditors. Okay, call the cops, get a 1011, ask for a report, tell them you need a case number, and tell them that you're going to take that to the district attorney. That forces the cop to get the perpetrator's name, at least. That information is going to be needed in the report, and tell them that you're going to be pressing charges, both civil and criminal, and you're going to be going to a lawyer and the district attorney's office.